My name is Jonathan. I am a Canadian-born acupuncturist. I've been living here in Switzerland for about 24 years. So my education is in Chinese medicine, where I also lecture and teach both in Switzerland and internationally. I've also written some books on Chinese medicine, published in different journals about Chinese medicine. Next to my Chinese medicine, I've also, within the last 10 years, become more and more interested and specialized in the psychology linked to Chinese medicine, specifically trauma. So that's my basic focus in the clinic, is I do a general clinic with a specialization on psychology and trauma with my clients. Besides my professional work, I also do a lot of personal work. And in my personal work, one of the most important aspects of it is to use ritual as a way of getting into my personal work. So that's what our talk is about today. So the talk is about rituals, and I chose the term a doorway because the ritual in itself is the way in which we can enter into different states of mind, different realms. And one of the key words that we're going to be using is intentionality, which means we're going to be bringing presence of mind, what's often taught as mindfulness, even though I'm not a very big fan of the word because the idea is to get rid of the mind. But we are bringing intentionality into our daily lives and specifically concentrating or focusing on how we can create circumstances for us to fulfill what we're looking to do. Okay, so that is going to be our focus of today with ritual. So I'd like to start by giving some quotes by some different people about rituals, just to bring us into the idea. So James Hillman is a psychologist. He was a contemporary of Carl Jung, and he created his own branch of it called archetypal psychology. So he talks about ritual. Ritual restores proper proportion to the soul's affairs. It shows us that a journey into the depths where we encounter powerful forces requires both time and provocative form, protective form. Now, often we talk about doing personal work, we talk about personal development, etc. In the realm of psychology, depth psychology, we're more talking about connecting to the soul than developing the personal. And a ritual, one of its main functions, as we're going to see as we go through it this morning, is that ritual is about depersonalizing. It's about giving up to something greater than ourselves. So it's about connecting to that part of us which is connected to something greater than ourselves, our soul. And that is where ritual comes into effect. So ritual is the connection of the individual with the transcendent, the cosmic order, the ancestors, the spirit world. It gives meaning and structure to life. So this is ritual on a grand scale, but we're also going to look at how we can incorporate it in our daily lives. It doesn't have to be always as big as the idea of getting to the transcendent. We also have Ram Dass. I don't know if any of you know who Ram Dass was. He was a spiritual leader in the 1960s, 1970s, a contemporary of many different people. So he talks about ritual as more in a more practical sense. So it helps us deal with the changes and passages of life, creating moments of meaning, connection to the larger context of our lives. Through rituals, we honor the spirit within and create a space where the divine can enter our everyday lives. So, what is ritual? Now, we often use this term, and sometimes we use it within different contexts. So the official definition is ritual is a set of actions performed mainly for their symbolic value. It's a very dictionary definition. Rituals can be religious or secular, often performed in a set sequence. So that's a definition that doesn't give us any information. But if we look at the word ritual, ritual is very similar to rite, okay? Ritualis, choose right. The term has its roots, meaning the observance or ceremony. But if we go further back in etymology, we're going to find that righteous was a proven way of doing something. It was a correct performance. So if we're going to take in this idea that we're going into other realms, into certain states of mind, it's the set of ways of doing it to properly enter them. Now it is true that most ritual life, if we look at it, is more religious in our modern world. Okay, so we think about rituals and we think about different religions, we think about different spiritual practices. We can also bring it into our daily lives, step by step. One of the things, though, is that we often confuse ritual with habit and routine. A habit, we all have habits, they can either be good or bad, but it's something that we do very commonly, repetitively. And most of our habits, we like to do them in autopilot. We're not thinking about what we're doing. When you're brushing your teeth in the morning, you're not, most of us, we're just doing it because it's our habit. It's what we're supposed to do. We don't bring intentionality, we don't bring any type of focus to it. We just do it because it's there. And yes, there is an advantage to having good habits, that we just do these things all the time without having to think about them. Then we get to routines. So routines can also be habitual, but they're a series of actions, or a series of things done one after the other. But they don't necessarily have intentionality or all the other aspects that ritual will have. So we have our habits, which are just our daily movements that we do without thinking about them. Then we have our routines, which are the set way in which we do it. Now, often they can be intentional or unintentional. For example, most people when they take a shower, not most, some people when they take a shower, or some people don't shower at all, so we'll leave them out of this. But some people when they take a shower, they always wash themselves in the same way. Okay? So how many people here, you have a set way of, I'm going to do this set, this washing, this washing. How many people do that when they go, okay? Now how many people don't? How many people like to just wash whatever comes to their There are some people who do that, okay? So that's our routine, right? We have a routine when we wash ourselves. Now, we can take that routine and turn it into ritual. Because if we bring intention and symbolism, okay, then we move into ritual. So routines can become rituals, but not all routines are rituals. Is that okay for everyone? So here are the key differences. We have intentionality, which means we're bringing our focus, we're bringing our presence of mind, we're constantly being present with what's happening. We have symbolism. So this is an idea of, in our chemical text, we talk about this idea as above, so below. Or what happens above will happen below also. This is a common phrase in many spiritual contexts. What is our connection to this other world is symbolic. We use symbol and metaphor to get there. So this is often why in ritual we'll have certain acts that have one meaning in what we're doing, and we'll have another meaning to sort of bring us into this other realm. So we have intentionality, we have symbolism, and then we also want to look at not just being a practical state, right? It's not just we're watching ourselves, we're also bringing ourselves closer into either an emotional state, a spiritual state, a religious state of interacting with something. So those are the key differences between habit and routine and ritual. So what makes a ritual? What are the components of a ritual. As I said before, symbolism or metaphor. These are things that we need to get somewhere else. So, does anybody here have any rituals in your daily life? Or if you can think about religious rituals. For example, in the Catholic Church, what is the first thing that they do is they walk through the church burning incense. So what is the symbolism of the burning of incense? It's the purification. So every ritual needs to have some sort of metaphor and symbolism involved. And this is our opening up into different aspects or different realms of consciousness. Now, we also want it to have repetition. Why would we like it to have repetition? It means that we're doing the same thing over and over again. There was a teacher named Adi Shanti, I don't know if any of you know him, but he makes a wonderful statement. He says, if I give you something difficult to do, it's easy to stay concentrated for a long time. If I give you something simple, that's where it's difficult to stay concentrated for a long time. So if, for example, any of you do meditation, when you have a guided meditation, the person is saying do this and do that, your awareness is constantly with what you're told to do. So you're very present. But then when you go into meditation, they say, just breathe for 10 minutes. Your mind will start to wander. It's much easier to breathe than it is to do all the visualizations that they're saying. But it's that work of bringing in presence of mind intentionality through repetition where things become easier and easier and we still stay present. That's how we cultivate our ability to stay within those new realms that we're opening up through the ritual. Now, it's also a key component is to offer or sacrifice something. Now this doesn't have to be the traditional, first of all, it doesn't have to be the blood of a virgin. You say offering sacrifice, we're not talking about that. Okay? But what we are doing is we are giving something to the realm, to the other in which we are interacting with. So this can be a prayer. It can be an emotion. It can be a symbolic grain of rice. But the idea is that we are giving something of importance that we have to that where we are going. An interesting idea of this is we have the idea in Greek mythology, when somebody would die, they would go to the river Styx, and there was the ferryman on the river Styx, and they would have to pay a coin to cross the river. That is the offering done from going to the land of the living to the land of the dead. So in traditional Greek society, when somebody would die, they would always put coins in their hand or their mouth before they would bury them. So they would have what? To pay the ferryman to cross the river. So our offering does not have to be blood or animals we don't have to go into those extremes. Our offering can be simply something that is important to us. So it can be a thought, it can be an emotion that we're giving up to the other as respect and to also humble ourselves. We talk also about there's a performance. So if the ritual is only within your mind, it hasn't come in to the realm in which we are now. We need to produce something, we need to perform something to make it in this reality. So this can be a movement, it can be an incantation, can be any type of performance, but it has to be real. It's very similar to, we talk about the importance of journaling. And I'm sure a lot of us do our journaling, okay? If we just keep the thoughts in our head, not as much will happen as when we write them out. Because they've become out, you've performed the thought, they then take on a different quality. They become more set, more structured. And we're trying to do the same thing with our rituals. So the performance needs to be something that brings it into reality, brings it into this room. Now the last part is sacredness. And this is a word that often people get a little bit, what is sacred, what isn't. It's a word that's very often used. But what we're talking about sacredness here is we are sealing a space. And we're making this space important for what we're doing. So the sacredness is about respecting and honoring the area and the ritual itself. So for example, it might be as if a ritual is, and we're going to get into different types of rituals we can have in a moment, but if we're having a ritual, it can be splashing a little bit of water around the area to make it fresh. Okay, it can be taking the incense and delineating the space in which the ritual is happening. It can be any type of way of saying, this is special. And then we honor and respect it. Okay. So these are the main aspects of ritual that we're going to be looking at when we want to create our own rituals. So we've talked about this a little bit, but we're just going to look at here is, why do we create rituals? What are they used for? So one is to create a specific state of mind. Now, I know the name of this meeting is Creative Mornings, so a lot of you are creatives. Now, to get into a creative space, sometimes it happens naturally, and I'm sure sometimes you've been sitting there, needing to create something and nothing comes. It's very difficult to enter into that creative space. Ritual can help you focus your attention to bringing out that creativity in yourself. So you can use it on just a daily basis for the things that you would like to do. Okay? We can also use it for our emotional states. Now, as we create rituals, they can also give us comfort, they can give us security, they can give us a sense of we know where we are when we're in the ritual. Now, one of the most common uses of rituals is transformation, or transition, is when we're going from one place to another. If we think about our lives, the great rituals of our lives, the first day of school is normally a ritual between parents and children. Their graduation, weddings, unfortunately funerals too, because we all will eventually die. But these transitions can be marked by ritual. Okay? How many people here went to university in the United States? Some of you? And when you graduated, did you all have to wear your silly cap? What was the ritual? Was that you took the tassel from the right side to the left side. That ritual was a transition going from being a student to having a person with a degree. So we use ritual to help us transition either important periods of our lives, but we can also use it in our daily life. Okay? We all have work, and then we get home. We go from being, in my case, it's the acupuncturist and the therapist, to being the parent, to being whatever. I can use ritual to help me transition in between. Another thing is that it can help us bring us meaning and purpose. It can make us remember to be in connection with the greater world around us and our place in it. So, what are the steps for creating a ritual? How do you build it into our life? Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to identify what is the ritual about. What is the purpose? What is the state of mind, or what is the realm in which I would like to enter? Because based on that, we're going to build our ritual based on where we want to go. Remember, the title of this was Rituals, a Doorway to Other Realms. But we have to first choose which door we want to build. So it's very important that we know where we're going, and then we create our ritual around it. So once we've decided that, now it can be many things. It can be relaxation, gratitude, focus, it can be connecting to the other, it can be connecting to myself. We want to choose the symbols and metaphors that will balance between the realm and world we want to go and something that's in our realm. So for example, if you wanted to get into a creative space, now a creative space is very dynamic. So what could be a symbol that we would use that would be dynamic in our realm that would represent the dynamicism of the creative space? It might be fire, for example. So the symbol of the candle and lighting the candle could be that I'm lighting the fire in this realm, and then I'm lighting the creative fire in myself. That would be the symbolic aspect between the two of them. The next thing we want to do is we want to set a sequence. We want to do it in a specific order. This gives us structure, okay? But it also starts to give us a sense of where we're going. And when we create the sequence, we want it to go from simple to deeper, deeper, and deeper. Okay? We don't want to punch through the door. We want to walk through the door. So first we need to turn the doorknob, then we need to open the door, and then we need to walk through. If we run through the door and it's closed, we're going to get hurt. Okay, so the idea of the sequence of events, or sequence of parts of the ritual, is to bring us in somewhere. So we start in one realm and we slowly go to the other. As we said, we want to do it over and over again because this helps us cultivate our relationship to the other that we're going to. Now, another thing, and this is, as we talked about creating the sacred space, another term for this would be we need to seal the vessel. We need to hold what we're doing within what we're doing. Now, I don't know how many of you, well, I'm sure some of you have had this type of experiences. You have a strong emotion. Now, if you go and you tell everybody about the emotion will start to dissipate, which is what we want because we don't want to be very upset. However, when we have a happy emotion, and we hold it, and we talk about it, it dissipates. Not that happy anymore. However, when we have a happy emotion, and we hold it in, and we contain it, not necessarily that we don't share it, but we contain it, we give it a hug, then it starts to create something within ourselves, and it starts to evolve, it starts to change. So our rituals are also living ideas of something we want to contain for them to evolve, for them to bring us closer and closer and closer to where we want to go. And this brings us to the last part here. Sorry, what just happened? This brings us to the last part here, the reflect and adapt. And this is an important aspect. When we're creating rituals for ourselves, we don't want to be rigid. We want to be able to move and change them. So you might start with a ritual thinking, okay, this is how I want to do it. I want to first light some incense. Then I want to say an incantation. Then I want to light a candle. And then I want to do this, this, and this. So you'll try it, and you'll see what works and what doesn't. Where does your attention waver? Where do you not feel like you're entering into the place? And then you can adapt it. Maybe you need to change the order. Maybe you need to change the words. Maybe you need to change the gest. Okay, so the idea is to constantly work with it until you get where you're going. And even once that's done, it's still to constantly adapt to it. Because as we change, our rituals can change too. Okay, so the idea is not to be stuck in tradition. We can take tradition and then we adapt it to ourselves, and we're constantly questioning where we're going with it. So, what is the benefits of bringing ritual into your life? It helps us cultivate being present. So, for example, you go to a wedding. Now, if you just have a party saying, here are two people who are going to spend the rest of their lives together. Okay? That's it. We're spending our lives together, let's dance, drink, and eat. It would be nice, but then when you're sitting in the ceremony, and there's the rituals of one person telling the other how much they love them, what emotions come up? There's tears of joy, of gratitude. Okay? So those rituals bring us deeper into ourselves through our presence and being present with what's there. Because when a couple tells us, we're going to spend the rest of our lives together, we're going to have a big party, we can feel that same emotion of being connected to them, feeling this idea of love. It's there, but it doesn't come to the surface. It's the ritual that brings it to the surface. So that's our presence, being more present. Now, as we talked about with our rituals, we're offering to something, we're giving up to the transcendent. They also keep us humble. It's not us who's doing everything. Things are happening to us. We are not controlling the world, we are part of the world. They bring us back into being in relationship to. Because our rituals is a doorway to another realm. That other realm is in relationship to ourselves. So we are constantly cultivating relationships. And as we're cultivating these relationships, not only are we going somewhere else, we're also opening up doors to the deeper parts of ourselves. And we're going deeper and deeper into the realms of our own soul. Often one of the goals from a very psychological point of view is ritual helps us move away from ego. It helps us move away from the impersonal and into the impersonal, into the part of ourselves that is not our thoughts, that is not who we think we are, and brings us into something much greater. So this is where Carl Jung brings in the idea, is the ritual act. It's a sacred drama in which gods and men, remember he was a 1950s, 1930s German man in Europe. It should say human. So it's a ritual act, a sacred drama in which gods and humans were united as a remembrance of the age-old experience of the archetypical world. Now Jung's version of archetypical world, this is the realm of the unconscious. This is the realm of where things happen that we do not necessarily understand, control, but where that part of ourselves that is very deep is yearning to go back to. So ritual is that gateway between the archetypical world and our reality. Now here he talks about it also, rituals are elaborate ways of dealing with the numinous. Now the term numinous comes from the Greek, but it's this idea of being connected to that which is greater than yourself. We have the word pneumatic. Pneumatic represents air. And numinous is about feeling those things around you that you can't quite identify. These are the spirits, these are those other things that are there. So rituals are elaborate ways of dealing with the numinous, the holy other, the mysterious and the irrational, in a form that is meaningful to both the conscious and the unconscious mind. So our rituals are about us creating this doorway between the parts of us that we are aware, our conscious mind, and the other realms, our unconscious. Is that okay for everyone? So, before we go into other things, does anybody have any questions or thoughts or anything that they would like to share about the concepts of rituals that I presented today?
I'm actually now thinking these rituals, it's very, very like something that's important and in normal like day-to-day life it's nice. I just remember like there was some critical moments in life when work and play started, and it was like a normal situation. And a lot of people were talking about creating some morning rituals, so it brings you to normal. Like, if the world like, gets you crazy, like you know what to do, so you like before getting coffee in the morning, it was just a ritual, like habit or routine. But you start to drink coffee as a ritual, so it feels like it's normal now, instead of and or do some very simple things. Yes. But you do it consciously and it's become a ritual, that meaning that you're still living, like everything is fine, and we are going on and so on. So it's like very interesting and reflection.
Yeah, exactly. Well, very well done, yeah. So this is, and you did touch on something here, is that we also have a little bit of a danger with rituals. This is that if we take rituals to be the thing that we're doing, if we take them literally, we risk underdeveloping our own presence and our own openness to the world. So the idea of the world is going, excuse the French, but it's going to shit. I'm sure we all feel that at the moment. However, ritual has the ability to give us some security and some balance. But we also have to be aware is that the ritual is there to bring us into this other realm. It's not there to compensate for where we are. So if we think, if things are getting out of control, ritual can help us to be grounded, but we still have to stay in the realm where things are out of control to interact with them. If not, what we're doing is we're using a ritual as a bypass for dealing with the reality of what's here. So ritual, yes, you're right, it's perfect to help us, give us that stability in the morning. You can turn your drinking your coffee into a ritual. But then from that ritualistic state, come back to what was a problem and still confront it. Because otherwise, what we're doing is we're burying our heads in the sand. Or we're burying our heads in ritual, as opposed to confronting it and using it as a tool to develop ourselves internally and the world around us. Anybody else?
I don't know, I think you're still gonna continue, right? So maybe you will tackle that. But I was wondering if you're gonna talk about like the individual versus the collective, because I thought that a lot of what you said has to do with like the individual part of creating your own rituals.
Yes.
But then you gave the example of like a marriage, right?
Yes.
Which is something like a ritual that I participate on, but it's not necessarily a ritual for me, but it's still a ritual that you're taking part on, right? And I think a lot of societal moments happen to be ritualistic, if you want to say like this, especially like in my case, Latin, so a lot has to do like with church moments and everything, but they're not necessarily, you see what I mean? Like that's what I'm trying to establish a difference.
So here one of the things is, yes, we have this communal idea of ritual. For example, weddings. Okay, or if you're religious and you go to the church every Sunday, and there's lots of rituals there. You can look at them on different levels. You can look at it as the collective, but that collective also exists in you. So when you're at a wedding, why do we feel the sensations we feel of tears of joy, of being emotionally touched? It's not just that there are two people that we love, we're going to say that we're going to be together. There's also about the wedding that's happening within ourselves, between the different parts of ourselves. So even in the collective is what is happening in this realm, that's also happening within ourselves. One of the things about when we go to a funeral, we feel the loss of the person whose body has died. but we also feel the loss of the part of ourselves that is dying constantly. And we are reminded of that. I'm sorry. Are you okay?
Yeah. Well, yeah, lots of many people who chose to do it.
Okay. And that does bring up within ourselves that feeling. So the invitation is any type of any type of communal ritual is also bring it into the personal. Because it's about you. So there isn't that big a difference between the collective and the individual, but often we focus on the collective. And that's, the more we're able to do that interplay, the greater the ritual becomes. And so the next time you're at a wedding, not only feel joy for the couple in front of you, feel joy for the different parts of you and yourself that are coming together. And experience that with that couple.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? So the other question was, do any of you have personal rituals at the moment? And then would anybody like to share them? You don't have to. But if anybody does have one, you can share. Or does anybody would like us to help them create a ritual? Does anybody have a ritual? Yes.
I think it would be nice, like, the concept of everything makes so much sense. But I think establishing it when you have never had one, or practice religion, like my family never went to church, or suddenly like rituals are like something fascinating as a concept to me, and then it's like, that would be great, sounds very useful. I've never seen it in practice in my family, or like, so to create them seems very like impossible in a way. Like, can I do that? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, would you be willing to do a little experiment?
Oh God.
It's very simple. It's not going to be.
I think I might be right.
Would you stand up? So, when you meet somebody, you extend your hand and say hello. Let's turn this into a ritual. So what are the aspects that we looked at making the ritual?
Symbol.
So what is the symbol here?
Handshake.
Handshake. And now, what part of our hands are touching? The palms of our hands. Okay? Now, in Chinese medicine, the palm of the hand, these points here are the points of the heart. So now, when we're shaking, it's my heart beating yours. So it's repetition, because we're going to shake hands many times. Okay? And as we develop that, that ritual becomes stronger and stronger. So it can be very simple things. And you can start with that. You know, when we meet, if you give somebody a hug, and you consciously bring your attention to your heart opening when you give them the hug. That hug became, instead of a routine and a habit of saying hello, became a ritual of connecting with that person.
It's really interesting, and I think that the cultural aspect of that as well, like I'm from Latin America, so we hug in case and we're proud, and like you share your heart in that sense. And then you move to the other side of the world where people are more
Can I clarify that? Doesn't matter what hands you shake, because I know like left hand seems like more like...
So in Chinese medicine, the meridians are aligned.
It's not like I give them your favor, like,
Well, giving them the liver can also be interesting. So the invitation is take the things that where you want to bring your intentionality and enter into a space and see what you're already doing there. And then slowly develop it. Okay?
So start small would be your advice?
Yeah, that would be my advice. Right? You can start small. It doesn't have to be an elaborate ritual where you're You're drawing out the shape of, doing 5 hours of meditation. The real goal of the ritual is to bring intentionality and to bring presence of mind. So we have lots of different things that we can do to get there, but that is the underlying principle. And you'll notice as you start to do that, rituals will start to arise in your life spontaneously. And then it's up to you to cultivate it. So it can be the shaking of the hand. And now every time you shake someone's hand, whether they know it or not, as you enter into the handshake, you're saying, I'm opening my heart to you, and you are opening your heart to me. That can be your incantation. Okay? For example, does anybody here do yoga? And when we start yoga, namaste. What does namaste mean?
My soul sees your soul.
Sorry?
My soul sees your soul.
Yes, so the light in me sees the light in you. Now, if we bring intentionality to the statement of namaste, it's ritualistic. Right? In the Middle East and in Arabic, salam alaikum, alaikum salam. Salam. If we say it as, but we bring the meaning of peace be with you, we're in a ritualistic state. If we don't bring our intentionality and it just becomes a formality, then it's something else. So already in our greetings, we can see that they're rooted in rituals, but we have lost the part of the intentionality. And that's where the problem is. Is that okay for everyone? Does anybody have, yes?
I just wanted to share maybe a ritual.
Please.
I find that for me, letting go is much easier with a ritual. And recently I moved apartments, and before doing the Italiano, it was all empty. I brought like a little blanket, and I sat there, and I had a lit a candle, I brought some crystals and some sage, and I just took a moment to just thank the apartment for all I had experienced there, and then I went to each room and I saged it to sort of clear my own energy from it, and I felt like I let it go with love for the next person. So. And I felt like it really helped me to let go and to move on to the next chapter as well.
Right. Excellent. And now the invitation would be is to continue that, not just for when you let go of apartments, when there's ever something to let go of. And that's where the repetition, right? So as you start to create the ritual, notice what works, and cultivate it, moving further on. Thank you for sharing. Yes?
I think there are also other people here who moved from other country to Switzerland. So I think as a ritual, it could also be maybe getting a plant or a fruit or something that reminds you of your country, and you get like the smell, and it brings you back to where you grew up. And that could be a kind of ritual.
That can be, yeah.
For example.
Excellent, yeah. Again, the one thing I would invite you to do is to bring the intentionality into it. And so if it's about making a specific food from your home country, the ritual can start when you're going to buy the food. It's not necessarily the cooking. It's when you go and you're choosing the ingredient and you know that you're going to create a place of home. And it's bringing that intentionality to it, amplifies it, and really will bring you there. So yeah, it can be very simplistic things. It doesn't have to be these elaborate rituals. Right? It can just be, it can be a 30-second breathing exercise for yourself. But bring presence, know where you're, have an idea where you're going. It's wrong to say know where you're going because you're always going somewhere where you don't know. But have an idea of where you want to go, and then let yourself go wherever you go. Okay? Anybody else have a ritual or something you would like to share? Well, I'd like to thank you very much. So here's my information. As I said, I'm an acupuncturist. I also teach. I'm also a therapist. So I'm going to be around here after if you'd like to ask me any questions on a personal level. But I would like to thank you for participating. Thanks, Sophie, for inviting me. Thank you very much.